Hey everybody, this is Rydo. We're playing Hearthstone and we're streaming live on April 12th at the same time. So you're either watching it live or you're watching a recording. We're doing the daily quest. We have 3 more. I need to do just 53 more damage to an enemy hero, play 10 more warrior cards, and play 48 mage cards. And then that's it. Like, we've already done the Tavern Brawl. I really don't have a reason why I want to do an arena run right now. So, we are pretty well set. So, hopping into this, but we just need to find a mage game. And I'm playing right now ranked because there's no real reason not to play ranked. If I lose ranks, oh darn. If I go up in rank, that would be nice. I'm still certainly not focusing enough on ranked play or building decks to win in ranked play that I'm probably going to get any further for it. Ooh, I am noticing there is a problem with this mage deck. It doesn't have any mage cards. This is a Battlecry deck. Well, I may be in trouble then. Like, I may not have a mage deck that has any mage cards. Which means I'm going to have to consider either getting rid of things or failing the quest and changing it. Nice to meet you. This adds a random mage spell to our hand. But no, there's a couple of these. Deal 2 damage at 1/1 elemental to your hand. There we go. Let's see. Nintendo is offering up to $20,000 for Switch vulnerabilities, which, from my perspective, is a good amount of money to offer there, compared to the $500 that you were being offered from Conan Exiles, an example, which I thought that $500 for a vulnerability, it's probably, you could make more money if you're ambitious enough to hold on to that vulnerability and exploit it yourself or sell it to somebody that could use it. Now, arguably, a vulnerability in general against the entire system is much more valuable and dangerous to have out in the wild for Nintendo than a vulnerability in a single game. That being said, any vulnerability in the game, in any specific Switch game, might very well turn into a way of rooting, unlocking, homebrewing, hacking, whatever you would call it, or whatever you would actually do to the entire system. That certainly is how the Nintendo Wii was hacked. Is you would play a certain game. I know this, frankly, from my own experience. You put in a certain game, you load a certain save file for a certain game, and then all of a sudden you can put a new homebrew channel on your Wii. And then that homebrew channel allows you to simply place any other apps you want in the on the SD card memory or whatever it was, and then you could have many things and do many cool things. Let's do this, do this.
I'm warning you, I'm unstable.
Add a random mage spell to your hand. I think I'm gonna have to do that. Mirror entity, okay. So yeah, $20,000 for a vulnerability on Switch. Hopefully they don't get all the vulnerabilities though, because I'm looking down the line on. I'm trying to replace my tablet. I have a Nook HD Plus tablet, and I'm trying to find something that would be relatively cheap, but much more powerful. So something that's older, but not as old as the Nook HD tablet, which is pretty old. And I was even thinking just last night, what if I just put like a Raspberry Pi in the tablet? And that wouldn't quite work because the circuitry in tablets are frankly just too small. So what do I want to do here? Do I want to kill this guy? Or this guy? Or this guy? I guess I should kill this guy. That way that happens. So yeah, a Raspberry Pi is too tall. I would need some special thing that was very flat that would also allow me to almost solder things directly next to themselves versus soldering things slightly on top of one another. I think even the width of the wire from one connector to another connector might be almost too much. Plus, a Raspberry Pi 3 is not faster than a Nook HD. It's not this all-in-one finished thing. And that's another weird thing about it. Let's see. This in the tray. So how that relates to Nintendo Switch is I would like to see a way to route that and put it's running BSD Unix on it. Like, is BSD Unix or is BSD its own thing? It's running BSD, whatever. But a special build of that, and BSD by itself is kind of even more obscure than Linux is as far as finding apps and particularly games or anything to put on it. So the first hack I would want to see on a Switch is, can you hack this thing and turn it into an Android tablet? Because then you take it from a low level, sure you can program this if you know how to program at a very, very low level, to just, oh, this will run any Android app that you put on it, which is a lot easier and more realistic to do. If they could hack it to run Windows, the Tegra processor in the Switch in particular is probably a good one to do it. You know, it can handle graphics to a certain extent much higher than probably most hardware. You know, it can probably handle Windows pretty well. You're not going to do 4K gaming on it, something like that. The controllers and the connectors that are on the side of the Switch, the Joy-Cons, are a bit of a problem. The battery is a bit of a problem. Maybe if you got Linux on there, that you could do some ultra power savings just through settings. But right now, it seems like it would be easier and better just for me to start thinking about replacing the battery on my current thing. My current Nook, because then in that process I've got an all-in-one device that's already working for its needs. That being said, I was also messing last night with my Nook Touch Simple with glow light, and there's several different versions, and I have like the newest version, which is the BNRV or VR500, which is kind of impossible to hack. It has an e-ink screen, so I was thinking, you know what, you probably would be better off just taking all the internals out of that. I mean, it is running Android, but there's no way to connect to it. There's no SD card in this model, and it doesn't seem like it has any USB debugging options, unless somebody knows and they could tell me in the comments if you know how to turn that specific model into USB debugging. But it seems like nobody has been able to do anything with it. And the one thing that it needs done to it is just the fact that it has 2.5 gigabytes of space, but only 500 gigabytes of space are formatted so that you can access it when you plug it into a computer. And 2 gigabytes of it are internally probably encrypted partitions that are for buying books on the Barnes & Noble store, which I don't even know if it exists anymore. It seems like it still works, but I don't know. Like, so it's a very cheap device, and I have it sitting around, and either I'm just gonna wait to see if a hack ever comes out, which probably isn't since it's a pretty old device, or I'm gonna get really ambitious and attempt a project I'd almost certainly fail at, which is to replace all the internals with a Arduino unit or Raspberry Pi, which I've not attempted any of these things, so I'm getting rather ambitious in my thoughts of how I would even start my first project with a Raspberry Pi, which is something I'm not unfamiliar with. I've always been very ambitious with computer things like that, and it's often bit me in the keister, and so I need to be aware of that and not go crazy. The other thing, I don't know if I even mentioned it, is that as I was saying, if you could get a PlayStation Vita and put like an Raspberry Pi in it. And the difference for people who aren't very technical, an Arduino is a 16 megahertz cheap computer controller type thing that's for small simple projects, whereas a Raspberry Pi is more of a computer based thing that you can actually put an operating system. Arduinos don't really have an operating system on it. Raspberry Pis you can put an operating system on, and they're much higher in their just processing, how many megahertz. That being said, they're still only about 12 like 1.2 gigahertz processor, so they're not a 8-core 3.5 gigahertz Intel thing that you would put in a computer, but they 1.2 gigahertz for limited use would certainly work, particularly when you're driving an e-ink screen, because the e-ink screen doesn't have the refresh rate on a Nook reader anyways. We have Rhino Star 101 saying hi. So, hi. I guess I can type back hi, and that's about it. So let's see, can I win here? Charge battle cry. I'm trying to play mage cards, unfortunately, and there aren't enough in here. So yeah, I've been, instead of recording videos for video games and being a video game critic, I've been messing with things, trying to see if I could hack that Nook reader, and there's no real reason, no way to do that as far as I can find, which is a shame. I really want that space back, but even with 500 megabytes, when you're just putting ebooks in it, an ebook by itself is usually only a megabyte, maybe 10 megabytes if it's a really big book with pictures. So just filling up 500 megabytes, I have like 38 pages of books, and you can use the program Calibre to have a much bigger library of ebooks and move it around, and move things in and off. You certainly, as long as you're slightly careful, can have it completely full of several months of content before you would need to replace it. Yeah, and I have no other mage card, no other mage deck. So I've made a mistake here. I need to play 50 mage class cards. I don't have any mage deck other than this one that barely even has any mage class things in it. So this is supposed to be a Battlecry elemental thing, and we need to change it. So let's look here. Let's see. New comments. This is bad timing, but do you want to play some now? Did I even get your friend request? Well, I've just run into a thing. As the way this is always going to work for everybody, just to be fair and just to save me time, is that anybody that wants to play is gonna have to stay around till the end of the stream. That's just how it's gotta go, because I need to get the daily quest done. That is the most thing. So because of that, if you're still around and you still want to play, and that is the friend request I just accepted, I will bring it back up at that point. So I need to just get rid of the elementals in this deck. We built it, but the truth is I need mage cards more. So we have add 2 elementals. Can we get rid of anything else before we get rid of elementals? No. So we'll get rid of this one and this one, and then this, and draw a secret from your deck. If you control secret, deal 3 damage. If you control the next secret you play, add a random spell to your hand. We'll get rid of this Death Rattle Elemental, and we'll add some random spells, and we'll do this one. Battlecry gain +2/+2 if an enemy is frozen. If you play an elemental, discover an elemental. If your deck has no duplicate, the next spell you cost spell. Summon a random thing. Alright, here we go. Get rid of that for those 2. Cast a random spell that costs 5 or less. We'll get rid of that one because that's not even an elemental. Discover a spell. So I'm going to discover more spells, which this is going to help with this. And I think that's probably as much changing as I want to do right now. So let's play. And here we go, back into this. So yeah, Rhino Star, at the end, if you're still around, I'll play you, but we gotta get through all the daily quests first, maybe not all the news. So speaking of almost news, but not really news, PC Gamer is doing a week of Japanese games. They did one article of games that from Japan they want to come to PC. It's not really too offensive, and it's kind of just an opinion piece. There's really no reason, though, that you specifically would right now write an article about Japanese games. Like, so it's not news, it's more like a magazine article. It's just this opinion piece that they've decided to do, which I guess I can forgive it, maybe because I like Japanese games too much, maybe because I haven't been super irritated by PC gamers. I mean, it's not clickbait, really. They are doing what they're saying. It's just what they're doing is not really related to anything that's happening right now. Japanese Golden Week is about to happen, so if they were trying to coordinate it around that, that would make sense. But then you're coordinating your English website to target a non-English speaking audience of Japanese people who have a week off of holidays. So that's not your audience. Let's see. Platinum Games has said they want Platinum Games, the makers of Bayonetta, which is now on PC, and I'm super psyched about that. They've said that they want
Can I light your fire?
all their games to come to PC, but it's the publishers. And see, that brings out a very interesting topic to think about. It's like, so you make a game and you can't publish it yourself. You don't have the connections, you don't have the money to spend on the advertising. Maybe over 50%, maybe as high as 80%, maybe even 90% of all of the money spent on this game will be advertising, if we were just to guess. Like, I don't know if any of that is actually true, but it's possible. It's certainly possible that that has happened in the past. So then you sign a contract for a publisher to be the exclusive publisher, you would assume, for at least certain consoles or platforms, or a certain amount of time, or something like that. That publisher is trying to make as much money as possible for you and themselves. So there's really not any conflict there, unless they were doing, I don't know, getting some kind of kickback or something for like doing Xbox exclusivity or PlayStation exclusivity, and if they were getting a kickback, almost certainly that incentive, as it would be called, which is pretty much a kickback, would be shared between the game makers and the publishers. But maybe not. Maybe there are some shady publishers out there that get a lot more money and then do very little work on there. One of those publishers arguably is Gearbox, because they certainly don't know what they're doing, and I'll talk about them a little bit more, although we've already talked about them a lot. We end up talking about them a lot. Anyways, so you get in bed with this publisher, and then the publisher probably can make you more money if you get exclusivities. One would have to assume exclusivity actually works, because otherwise people would go full every single console. Of course, a lot of this is negotiated and thought up at the beginning of production, because if you know for a fact that you're going to only have the resources to program one version of your game, you might very easily say, I want this to be a PlayStation exclusive, because you don't have the resources to do that. And Sony may very well pay you a little bit of extra money and promote your game a little bit more because it's an exclusive. On the other hand, it might be that you're making this game in an engine that could easily port the game to Xbox One, PlayStation 3, Switch, and the PC easily without any extra effort, or very little extra effort. And because of that, you might find that that the publisher is negotiating for exclusivity at kind of against your wishes, or otherwise. So for Platinum Games, Sega is the publisher of Bayonetta, and they're kind of putting the blame on Sega and saying, well, Sega didn't want it on PC. Arguably very believable. Very few Sega games are on PC, and when they do come to PC, they're not the best of ports. Maybe that's all changing. Maybe this is the beginning of it. Platinum Games just sold Nier Automata on PC, and I think that probably opened up a lot of people's eyes in Japan as far as let's see, as far as games that there we go. Games selling on the PC, because in Japan in particular, people don't have PCs, but that might be changing too. So it is the publishers, I guess, in a sense. I kind of feel like the developers though need to push harder for PC releases, and I don't think that's was happening until just recently. Let's see, this will be the last game for this recording. There's not really a lot to say here. For the first UK case is coming up for a British terror hoaxer / swatter. So this kid or person, I don't know who it is, tricked some United States police department to think that something really horrible and dangerous was happening at another player's house, and the police showed up guns blazing, as they have a tendency to do in the United States, and it's a major problem that needs to be addressed more. And because the police were tricked, they ended up shooting this innocent player, or relatively innocent player. Well, in this accusation, at least innocent. I guess I shouldn't attribute innocence to anybody these days. So this guy got shot because somebody was swatting terrorists, and that certainly is why I don't want to dox anybody. And I don't want to dox myself. I don't want to dox anybody else. I don't want to give out information, if you don't know what dox means, about anybody that friends me, anybody that plays me, because there are immature and just malevolent, bad people out there, to use smaller words, that would like to use that information and think it's just funny to send police to other people's houses and try and get them hurt or arrested, which is completely unacceptable and wrong. That actually swatting is one of my major concerns in doing this. It's like, it goes, the three major concerns are getting sued for copyright infringement, content ID stuff, because I've seen lots of examples of the automated content ID happening. Getting YouTube just completely changing its rules around and getting banned from YouTube, which honestly is not as bad as getting sued for copyright infringement. And then being swatted is probably number 3, because it's unlikely to happen, but if it does happen, it's very bad. And so, like, that's right up there as my 3 major worst case scenario things that would happen. Well, if you're watching live, stay tuned. Otherwise, as always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on basically any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.